Hi, I'm Brent Johnson, and today we are at First Presbyterian Church in Kirkwood, Missouri, a suburb right outside of St. Louis. And with me today is Bill Stein. You're the organist and director of music here.
Yes.
How long have you been here?
I've been here for 12 years.
12 years. So 4 years ago, you had a dedication of this instrument that was installed in 2013.
Exactly.
We've just passed the anniversary of that, so I thought we'd come back and look at this instrument a little bit and share it with our friends. This is, how many ranks do we have here?
We have 61 stops and 76 ranks.
76 ranks of Casavant.
Did I get that right?
We'll confirm that later.
Yes, 61 stops, 76 ranks.
Very good. And it's in two chambers here in the front of the church, and then we have an antiphonal division in the back. Let's take a look. Let's start over. I want to start in the great, actually. The Grand Orgue. Everything is very French on this organ.
Yes, it's very all French symphonic inspired.
So the whole thing's inspired with that matter. So we're looking at the Grand Orgue here. Let's just start with the montre, which is, are these the pipes that are out front?
Not the 8-foot, the 16-foot montre in the grate and the pedal make up the facade.
All right, let's start with the 8-foot montre. Let's just hear what that sounds like. And then we have a 4-foot crestant that goes with that. Doublet. Okay, so we have two mixtures. I assume the furniture is the first one. We have 4 and 5 rank furniture.
And the cymbals adds a lot of brightness to
And then on the way up, we also have a 2 2/3 quint. So let's go back to just do the 8/4 and 2 2/3. What does that sound like? If you put the 2-foot.
And the 2 2/3 works. I use that a lot in hymn singing. If I don't want a big bright mixture, I'll pull this one on. It just adds some nice color to the foundations.
We also have some flutes in the grate. We have a flute harmonique, which is 8.
Beautiful flute harmony.
And then in proper French style, we also have a stopped bourdon in the grate as well. That's a big, bright bourdon there. So how does that sound when you couple the flute harmonique together with that?
Nice and full.
A flute ouverte, an open 4-foot flute goes on top of that. Great flutes. There's a violoncelle in the grate. That's a
Yes, this is a wonderful string, very broad.
small principal even.
It is.
So then we also have a cornet of 3 ranks. I assume
Yes, a wonderful, bright cornet, very, very French.
So it says 2 2/3. We have our Nazard in there, so we have a tierce, and then what's the third rank?
A 1 1/3.
1 1/3. Okay. So you could even add that to your mixtures and get that tiercey.
You can, and use that in place of the mixture. You've got this wonderful, old French.
Very nice. So you can have your both romantic sounds and your more classical French sounds
Your
all right there.
and all of it plays all the repertoire really.
Very nice. Then we have a trumpet in here. What does that sound like?
Yes.
It's big and bright, but it's not overwhelming.
It doesn't overwhelm. It works, and again, it's very flexible. It works well as an ensemble reed and a solo reed.
So let's play the 8/4-2 mixture and add the reed and see what does that add to the. So here's just
Let's
the
pull everything.
just the chorus.
There.
And the trumpet.
And the cornet.
Okay. That's a great sound.
It's a wonderful sound.
Oh, from there, we're going to go over to the positive now, our bottom manual, this is a big positive. You have a lot of stops here.
It's a large positive, but it contains some of the more delicate stops in the organ.
You have a lot of color here, I can see. Starting with our softest things, we have a flute celeste.
We have a nice little flute celeste that you play with the 8-foot flute. It just shimmers. Yeah. And the positive is under expression, so you can shut the box.
You've got another celeste pair in here.
What we decided to do is to pair a large celeste that can be played with the 8-foot principal.
Oh.
So we've got the 8-foot principal on the positive, smaller scale. But if you add the celeste to it, large gamba and gamba celeste.
Right, because the principal is small enough that it's almost string-like.
Exactly.
Especially with that celeste end.
So what you've got two sets of strings basically.
Yeah. Okay. And then, let's keep going up here. We have the 4-foot Fugato, which would go on top of the principal.
Right. And it's a brighter. It's got a nice little bite to it.
So it gives you a little bit, and you could even fatten that up with the flute if you wanted to.
You
to
can
add
add
just
the
a little bit
8 and 4-foot flute on there.
Just adds a little more foundation to it. Okay. And then we have above that, we'll turn these off and put on the flageolet. Flageolet, how do we say it? It's a 2-foot flute, right?
It's a flute,
yes. So we have our chorus here is mostly flute based, and then there's a Nazard in there as well. What's that sound like?
If you take that off and put it on with the flutes, it works.
Now we're getting it fatter. So those are all flute stops in there. If you put in if you do put on the Fugato, does that just obliterate it too much?
Not really.
I see what you mean. It's different, but
it's biting.
Those flutes are a little more gentle in here. We also have a tierce, so you've got another cornet right here if you use all of those.
And
right?
if you want to do the cornet, we have a tierce, a largo, and a septième.
It goes all the way up.
It goes all the way up.
Well, let's see where just the tierce first. Okay.
And then you add the 1 1/3. And then the 1 1/7.
It's very full. Let's talk about that. The septième is a stop a lot of people don't have.
Right.
It's comes from French cornets mainly, but let's just play middle C for me. This is 8-foot middle C. The septième sounds. That doesn't sound like it should be musical at all.
No, it doesn't.
Let's turn on. Do that again. This is the 8 and the 7. Play scale. Well, that kind of blends in there as it goes. And if we add the other lower colors, then it just disappears.
But what I noticed with that septième, it almost gives it a reedy quality.
Right.
It almost feels like a reed. And then if you want to keep going, we actually have a 1-foot.
Oh.
So you can have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 rank cornet on the positive.
But unlike a real cornet stop, you can pick and choose which colors you want because those are all separate.
You know, you can do your sesquialtera right here, which is really nice. Or just 8, and the 4 and 1 1/3 is always nice too. Or 8 and 1, just for something light, you know.
Does it sound like the 7th in there? It's funny. It's
almost a bell quality.
Right. It just adds that odd pitch in there. It doesn't sound like it should be musical at all, but it does. It creates something completely new out of the stops.
Right.
So that's great. Now this also we have a 3-rank Franjou, which
Right.
I guess
so
would
if you
be
play
principal.
those with the 8 and 4.
So we do have a fairly big principal chorus in there.
And the positive division works very well for some choral accompaniment as well.
I can imagine. And you can close all that down.
Absolutely.
You have control of that, so that's great. And then we have some reeds. We have 3 reeds.
3 reeds.
All right, so
actually 4.
Because we have a tuba, but we'll get to that. Let's start with right there what you got your hand on. That's the cor anglais, which is a 16-foot.
Right, English horn, which, you know, is at 16, but you can couple it and play it an octave higher. But then it again does go all the way down.
a 16-foot reed would not be out of place on a French positive.
Not absolutely. Very
Especially classical
appropriate.
design. So, okay, so we have the English horn. We also have an 8-foot clarinet.
Clarinet, a very large clarinet, very French scale.
Very nice. And then we have a trumpet in this division as well.
Yes, almost a little English-sounding trumpet. Still has good French
Yeah.
bite, but almost a little bit rounder, like a.
But it gives
like
you
a
an option.
cornopia.
Compare it to the great trumpet, just the grand door trumpet.
So here's the positive.
Similar, related, but different uses
Right.
there. So that's great.
Yes.
And then this division also has a tuba mirabilis.
Right, the tuba, which is wonderful because it's in the positive, so you can close the box, it's under expression. And the tuba plays on every division in this organ. Which is a little out of tune this morning.
That's all right. Sometimes we all are. Let's. No, we have it at 16 and 8 as well. Does it actually go? Or 16,
And
8,
four.
and 4. That'll wake them up on
I don't
Sunday
do that
mornings.
very often.
But does it actually extend to 16 and 4? or
No,
is
it doesn't.
So
It's just from
bars?
tenor C.
Okay.
Yeah.
So over on the racy side, let's start with, we have an 8-foot diapason, which
Yes.
is not a French term.
No, again, kind of a little English
Yeah.
flavor.
It's much more gentle than
It is. And even in the positive principle has a little bit of kick
Yeah.
to it. This one is a much gentler,
Okay.
more of an English diapason.
and then of course as well 4-foot principal on top of
And the
that.
principle on top.
Over to a 2-foot octavin.
Yep, add the two. Then you can add your principle, and this is a large flangeau
Yeah.
on the rest.
Great. So you have fairly complete principal choruses on all three.
Every
divisions here.
division has
So,
a complete principal chorus with the mixture, and every division has an 8-foot reed,
Very nice. So,
an 8-foot trumpet.
well, let's jump straight to the trumpet on this one then.
Okay. We have the traditional French reed battery
All right, so
on the
trumpet
swell.
harmonique.
The trumpet
So they're
harmonique.
double length at a certain point.
Yep. The 4 on top of that, and then the 16-foot basson. Which
Sound,
you
yeah.
can just close the box. They call it the caged lion.
Very nice. And then let's look at some of the flute stops we have. We have a Borden 8-foot.
8-foot Borden.
Which is a little different than the Great Borden. Which compare those two? Besides just being bigger in the Great, that one's just a little different kind of sound.
And a beautiful 4-foot flute. I love this. I've used this 4-foot flute by itself as a solo. Even if you had a little tremolo to it. Just a beautiful flute. And then with the 8, and then add the 2.
And that's something we see a lot, is the 2-foot is usually somewhere in between a principal and a flute. So it can be on top of your principal ensemble or your
Exactly.
flutes. I've seen that happen a lot. That's a handy little thing to have.
Works really well with both.
And then we also have a Celeste, Viol de Gamba and Celeste in
A
there.
good, your French, you know.
And then
Bassoon.
we have a bassoon au bois. it
The
says.
bassoon au bois is a kind of a mutation of a bassoon and an oboe, but
Okay.
very, very franc. Very much what Franck would have used in his registration.
I see.
When he composed. And we do have a Vox Humana,
Of course.
which of course you use with the
Very French Valsion, yeah, big voice.
And it actually stays in tune.
Wow.
Which is amazing.
So the Racy and the Grand Orgue are all on that side, is that
Yes. And both divisions are 2 stories.
correct? Okay.
You know, everything is on 2 stories, which occasionally when the weather gets iffy, provides some tuning thing, but not too bad. The Grand Orgue is right behind the facade pipes. Principals are downstairs and the flutes are upstairs. Same thing with the Racy. Box that holds the Racy is right behind the Grand Orgue and at 2 levels.
And then the positive is behind us.
Positive and pedal.
Pedal. So let's talk about the pedal. What have we got up there?
We have a large pedal division
Looks like it.
on this instrument. If we start with our basses, we do have the principal chorus, which is based on a 32-foot montre. So we have montre at 32, 16, 8, and 4.
That's a full-length 32-foot montre in there?
Yes.
Wow.
And the 16-foot montre from the grate also
Is
plays in the
available,
pedal. So what the facade pipes are the 16-foot montre in the grate and the 16-foot in the pedal.
They're on opposite sides, so
Yeah, so they go back.
stereophonic 16.
And then we have the French flute chorus, starting with the sous-basse at 32, 16, 8-foot Borden, and 4-foot flute.
Again, a real 32-foot stops. Fascinating.
And then they, as very typical, the 16 and 8-foot flute from the Racy plays in the pedal, so you've got a nice soft. There's a contrabass, which is an open wood, which is up. The sous-basse is over there, the 16-foot contrabass is over here.
So you have a 16-foot open wood and a 16-foot open metal.
Yes. So if you have all the 16s and 32s at once, it sounds like this. Well, and part of it, we have a large space,
Yeah.
so you really need, and the bass just sings in this room beautifully. We also have 2 interesting stops. We have a 10 and 2/3 quint,
And that's independent.
which is an independent,
Top
which is nice if you don't want to pull on one of your 32s. It gives you that.
Just softer.
Right. I'll put this on here.
Gives you the effect of a resultant, which
It's a
we
resultant.
saw in an organ last week that had a resultant bass only as a 32. That gives you that same by adding 10 and 2/3
Right.
above the 16.
And this works beautifully.
Yeah, because it's an actual 10 and 2/3. Unfortunately, usually a resultant is just another stop played a fifth higher, and it's not in perfect tune.
The other interesting stop is we have a 6 and 2/5 theorb.
A Teor.
Yes.
I learned this from Casavant people themselves. This is a
Yes.
Casavant specialty.
This is one of their trademarks. And in Renaissance music, a theorb looked like a large lute
Right.
with a long neck and, you know. And what this is used for, this is basically your 10 and 2/3 that you would use with your reeds. If you don't want to pull your 32-foot reed on, you can use this with the 16-foot bombard to kind of give that result. So if you just have the bombard on by itself at 16, by itself, it sounds like this.
It's one of those things that doesn't sound like it'd be musical like the Septième, but when you blend it in, those upper harmonics are simulated.
You never use it by itself.
So the Teorb has 2 ranks in it. We have a 6th and how many fifths?
2/5.
2/5, which is a tierce, so it's playing a third of the unison, and then we also have a 7th in there.
Yes.
So if we play, again, that's high G. It doesn't sound like it would be musical at all, but
It actually sounds like they voiced it off the trains that,
yeah.
that are down by the station.
But it just adds those upper harmonics to the reed that
Right.
make you think you're hearing a lower pitch. It's such a strange
Right.
and amazing thing. So you played for us the 16-foot bombard. What else do we have is the pedal?
We have the full reed chorus. Again, the principal chorus and the flute chorus are based on a 32. This is as well. We have
Okay.
bombard 32, 16, 8, and 4.
wow.
So
Really shakes the room.
they do. The reeds, the 16 and 32 are wooden, with wooden
Oh, okay.
resonators. And they do switch to metal when you get up to the upper parts of the 8 and 4. They're metal pipes. pipes, but the lower pipes are all wood with wood resonators. The 16-foot basson from the swell also plays in the pedal, as does the tuba and the enchimade.
We'll talk about the antiphonal in just a moment. You also have some chimes over there in the pedal, I see. Where else do we have chimes?
Great.
They're all in
On the
grate.
grand org and the pedal, we've got ring the doorbell.
All right. So in the back of the room, we have the antiphonal division hanging off the back wall. There are 10 ranks of pipes. That's a lot for, it's not an echo. It's a full division of the organ back there.
The old organ had an echo division that was actually tucked away in the wall. There were 4 ranks way behind the wall that never really did anything.
That was kind of an echo, just
Right.
sort of whisper sounds, but
And
this speaks into the room.
This actually was not part of the original design when we met with Casavant. But we talked about it and we thought we needed something in the back, more than just a reed. And so we decided to put this entire division back there, and it's just, I use it all the time on hymn singing. It pulls the organ together, and it's voiced so well that when you're out in the room listening, you can't really tell that it just blends beautifully with the main instrument.
Well, the first thing I see on the front is a big 16-foot violone.
We do, we have a 16-foot violone.
Let's say that you only have 3 manuals here, so this you have to this is a floating division, and you have to put it on which manual. And you can put it on
All 3.
You can put it on all 3, so you can move it wherever you want.
Play on all 3 and the pedal.
Which is great.
So yes, violone at 16
Good, and then that's available at 8.
and at 8.
That's nice.
It's a nice 16. It's not muddy.
Yeah, but if you need then more principal sound, you have an 8-foot Montreux.
Exactly. There's our 16 or 8 and 4-foot principals. And a 2. And then a little 2-rank mixture.
You can see how that would add a lot to your hymn accompaniment when you got a lot of people in here, both in the choir singing and the people in the back.
Great.
Fill it up. Then we have some flutes back there as well.
Flutes at 8 and 4, and these are have a little bit more of a chiff to them than the flutes do in the main organ. The 4-foot flute especially is very lovely.
And it's a flute conique, I assume.
Yes.
Conical tapered metal flute.
Yes.
Right. And then, of course, sticking out, we have the big copper trumpet enchimade.
Trumpet enchimade, which crowns that.
And the trumpet enchimade is available in the grate as a separate stop.
On the grate
And-
and also in the pedal.
So you can have that and still use the rest of the stops of the antiphonal somewhere else.
Exactly. The enchimade does couple, so if you've got
Oh, it does.
everything on the positive playing, or on the antiphonal coupled, it does come with it.
All right.
The tuba does not couple, however. So
Okay.
if you've got the tuba on the positive, couple positive to grade.
So you can keep it down there and still have the full effective
Absolutely.
chorus.
Yeah, the tuba can play independently.
This is where the organ sits on Sunday morning.
Yes.
Usually you can see the choir here, but it does roll around and move out
Yes,
everywhere
it
you
moves
want.
very easily moves out to the middle for recitals. We also have a connection on the other side, so this can live on the other side of it. So it can live anywhere up on this upper
Very
level.
handy.
It's very-
up underneath, and the first thing we see are some gigantic regulators. And all wood wind lines. No PVC in here. And then we have the chest right here for the facade pipes through the grill cloth. And then that's the back of the facade. We have some more great mantra pipes right here. And behind them is the 32-foot open. Big beards on the pipes. First thing we have is the great flute pipes, or principal chorus mixtures. And then upstairs is a flute, chest, and reeds. And in the back of the room we have a continuation of the pedal, 32 into the 16, and that goes up above our heads, up to the smaller pipes. And then back here we see there's our relay, electrical stuff, and the door into the swell. There's our swell reeds. Let's go in and take a look. This is one tall swell chamber, although it has a sloping roof, so the tallest pipes are in the front. There's our flutes back there. 16. Peterson swell motors. Bassoon, Vaxiamana. Now the upper chest of the grate. As you can see, I'm pretty high up here. These openings were added when the Casavant organ went in. These weren't here when the Wicks organ was here. They allow the sound out into the room. And I think it works really well. Peek into the swell shades. We're way up high. And there's a cymbal stern. This is something I always appreciate. We're here at the bottom of the wind chest, and these actually just slide to the side and allow you to open up the chest and see the action in there. So these are electromagnetic coils that pull on the wire, and that opens the pallet, which is just like a tracker organ. Only instead of actually going to a key, it goes to this magnet that has many little places you can adjust to make sure you're getting the right travel and response. There's some springs that hold the pallets closed, but wind pressure does most of the work. That spring is actually to help return it to closed position. But I always like it when organ builders make it easy to get into the wind chest, so you can fix things quickly and get back out with a minimum of affecting the organ. So there's actually 2 pallets per note, a long one and a shorter one. And I actually don't know why that is. If that's to just provide a double wind supply, one of them might be easier to open because it's shorter. Maybe they don't both open if there's not more stops on. I don't know. That's something I'll have to look into. Here's our swell tremolo, which is suspended from springs. So I guess it bounces as it trems. And another very large regulator back there. But very spacious and easy to get around in this chamber for having as many pipes in it as it does. There's how the chest cables connect, so you can just pull this out and pull the cable off if you need to disconnect things to test or remove the chest for any reason, so makes it easy. Well, I do want to point out there is a recording of this album available. Tell us about this a little bit.
Jeremy David Tarrant is the canon precentor of the Cathedral Church of St. Paul in Detroit, Michigan, the Episcopal Cathedral. And Raven asked him to do his first solo recording a few years ago, and he wanted to do a all-French CD. So he called up Simon Couture, our dear friend at Casavant, and said, point me to an instrument. And without hesitating, Simon sent him here. And so he came here and he tried out the organ and immediately agreed to record his CD here. And it was just released within the last few weeks.
Yeah, just a few weeks ago. So there'll be a link in the description if you would like to get your own copy of Charles-Marie Widor Organ Symphony No. 7. Also has works by Vierne and Lettez on here, so a nice French CD on this great French organ. The organ that was in here before, I was familiar with that one. It was a Wix organ.
Yes.
A very large 4-manual.
Yes.
And it was, well, tell me about that organ. Where did it go?
It was 45 ranks, and it was installed when the sanctuary was new in the mid-50s. It did its job, but we needed a little bit more. And so when we decided to get the Casavant, we were thinking, what are we going to do with this Wix organ? Well, Wix called us up and said that the cathedral in Apia, Samoa, which had been destroyed by the tsunami back in 2009, they were rebuilding the cathedral and they wanted an organ. But being a very poor island, really didn't have the money, and they wanted a pipe organ, and so we donated it to them.
Wonderful. So that organ still plays on.
It plays on halfway
Samoa.
around the
Wonderful.
world. Yeah.
Well, Bill, thank you for showing us your wonderful instrument today. I want to remind you that if you're interested in streaming classical organ music, you can find it 24 hours a day on our 3 stations, organlive.com, Positively Baroque, and The Organ Experience. You can subscribe to our channel below to get updates for when we have new videos coming out, and we do have more coming out. So thanks for watching.